Susan had an idea, which she told to Paul, who told it to Tony, and together they changed the face of television with a show called Soap.
Paul and I were working together as a producer, associate producer on the Movie of the Week, Brian's Song, and we had been asked to produce a show with Bobby Sherman. And Susan came in to pitch an idea to us regarding that show, regarding one of the episodes. And that's the very first time we met. She was extremely talented.
Shortly thereafter, Tony and I started our own company, and the first writer that we contacted that we wanted to work with was Susan.
And then we became a partnership with Thomas Harris. Susan had expressed the interest to want to do a show that was not in the ordinary fashion of that beginning, middle, and end 23 minutes. And she was kicking around the idea of trying to do a serialized show, a soap opera type show, comedy, in prime time.
We came up with the idea of two families, and then the characters came out of that.
This is the story of two sisters, Jessica Tate and Mary Campbell. These are the Tates. And these are the Campbells.
The beginning of the creative process, it was sitting down with Paul and Tony and doing a lot of talking and fleshing out the characters. Then I would go off and write.
You will absolutely not believe what is going on in my life. This is big.
Big? Oh, Mary, you don't know what big is, because of course you don't know what's going on in my life.
It was all character driven. It was, which was the beauty of the show, is we didn't have to worry about a beginning, middle, and end in the half hour.
And by keeping the stories open-ended, we were able to create much longer character arcs.
Will Danny and Elaine find happiness even though he thinks she's a farm animal? Will Bert and Mary find happiness living with Danny and the farm animal?
It gave Susan a freedom to write the kind of scenes that could be as long or as short as she needed them to be.
When we were reading the drafts, we all felt we had something very special. Now, is it going to work? Is America going to accept us? I don't know anybody that has that answer, but we were going to be very happy and very proud of what we were doing. And to this day, that would be all we care about. And we had that from the very beginning. From the script, the casting task was to make sure that we could get it on camera.
Some of the material did get absurd. I mean, we went from farce to tragedy.
Elaine, oh God, she's been shot!
It worked because the actors made you care about the people and believe the people. They were that good. They were that skilled.
What's that?
Okay, I got it. It's red. It's round. It's an apple, Betsy! This is amazing!
Like all television shows, there were casting lists, and we went over those lists and decided who was appropriate to see and who was not, as in every show we've ever done, and everyone does. They go through the lists. And there were those, will they do this? Will they consider this? Will Richard Mulligan, who had a feature career, consider this? Will either Catherine, who were dealing on Broadway at the time, would they be interested? Will Billy Crystal, who's got Saturday Night Live chasing them and other kinds of things going on, would he want to do this? I mean, there were a few dicey ones where could we get them or not get them, and the others were just good, strong, talented people who were available, who came in and knocked their socks off. They're just brilliant in the roles.
This is Jessica Tate. Jessica likes life. The only thing about life she would change, if she could, is that she would set it all to music.
Katherine Helmond made Jessica real. Jessica was a very flighty lady who had her own reality, but at the core was, a woman whose life had just gotten away from her.
Don't be silly, dear. Of course she's living here. Her mail comes here.
She was the perfect combination of innocence and sensuality that we were looking for.
I know it's morning and it is light out and everything, but I was just thinking, Chester, maybe we could...
Katherine Helmond made that part come to life, because on paper it could have gone several different ways, and when she came in and read, that's it. That's Jessica.
Mary Campbell also likes life. Unfortunately, life doesn't seem to be too crazy about her.
Catherine Damon, again, was one of those great theater actresses who we were familiar with but didn't know if she could play this, and she was brilliant.
I'm losing my baby.
You're not losing me, Ma.
I am.
Not a lot of people know this, but we recast that to put her in it. We didn't have her originally in the show.
Now, this morning, I want some peace and quiet. Nobody calls anybody a fruit, an animal, a jerk, anything.
She was so centered. She was so sane, and she could play beleaguered without being a victim. She could take punch after punch after punch, whatever life delivered her. She was able to get up and go on, and you never thought she was foolish. You never took her for granted. You never thought the less of her. She had this great courage as a person that she was able to put into her acting this role.
This is Chester Tate. He's the very successful husband of Jessica Tate. He'll make a move on anything with a pulse.
Bob Mandan was, again, one of those great actors, solid actors. Is on a list. Bring him in. Let's see, if he can play this part. And he comes in, and you can't stay in your seat. You're laughing so loudly at the way he's doing the material.
Oh my God, I'm Gunga Din.
You are not Gunga Din.
Then I'm Gloria Swanson.
He had a great theater background. He could be arrogant.
Do you know the cholesterol count of that? You might just as well get a gun and put it to my head.
Now you're talking.
And still be sympathetic in that you knew that this was basically a buffoon just trying to get through life like the rest of us.
This is Mary's husband, Burt Campbell. He's a self-made man, which isn't really saying all that much.
Richard Mulligan could do anything. He could make silence funny. You didn't have to write lines for him.
He would rehearse the tiniest piece of business until he could make it real.
I saw a spaceship. It was right over there, and it went...
That character had his own world that he lived in on several different occasions throughout the series, and yet Richard was an individual who you understood and who you understood the problems that he was going through because of Richard himself. Richard Mulligan was a genius and a great clown, a great physical comedian, and yet could make you feel that you could identify with his problems.
This is Danny, Burt Campbell's stepson. He's not part of the family as much as he's part of the family.
Ted Wass was unknown to us. I think we had been familiar with the fact that he was one of the actors in one of the versions on Broadway of Grease, and that he was a hunka burning love kind of guy, great-looking guy, and it would be great to have this guy in the ensemble. And did he have the comedic touch that we were looking for? And did he ever?
Everyone's always picking on the Italians. Anytime they find a dead guy in Brooklyn, right away, it's the Italians. They find a body in the trunk of a guy's car, it's the Italians. Well, I'm sick of it. I'm a sick.
But you're not even Italian.
Don't tell me I'm not Italian!
He and Richard Mulligan were great foils for each other. Ted had a lot of depth as an actor, so again, Susan could do all the silly, crazy stuff she wanted to with the character. And yet, when we needed to go to heart, Ted was available, and he was very competent and strong in his acting abilities to portray anything we needed.
This is Mary's other son, Jody. When it comes to Jody, it's strictly don't ask. You don't have to.
To my knowledge, the character that Billy Crystal played, Jody Campbell, was the first gay character on television that everyone said was gay. Didn't hint at it or any other way. Came right out and said he was gay and embraced him as that kind of a person and just explored his relationships, explored him wanting to be a father, explored every aspect of the character, and we're very proud of that.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Hi, big brother.
Hiya, little brother. Why don't you offer him some Fruit Loops? It'd be very appropriate.
Billy took a while to make up his mind. It could have been a career-ending move in the sense that it's something that you've got to think about when you tackle that kind of part at that time.
That's not what I'm doing, Dennis. That's not what I'm doing at all.
Well, come on, don't tell me you're marrying Carol because you've suddenly gone straight.
No, I'm marrying her partly because I should and partly because I want to.
What would have happened to Billy if America had rejected that character, associated him with a particular kind of behavior, or typecast him in their minds in that part? It could have hurt him. So it was amazingly courageous and a great break for us that he would do it.
This is Chuck Campbell, a son from Bert's previous marriage. He doesn't have much to say, but Bob, well, he's no dummy.
We'd like a ventriloquist who can act and make us believe what was going on. And there were only a few choices. I don't even remember the other choices.
Well, look who's here. It isn't a bride to be.
Bob, why don't you go sit on a drill?
When we introduced the brother from Hawaii, it was going to be short. He was going to come and he was going to go. But everyone loved them so much, including, we did, but the audience took to that character so much that we had to leave him in.
This is Eunice Tate. When someone once said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, they weren't talking about her.
Jennifer had done a number of films and a lot of theater and was just a remarkable actress who was looking for the opportunity to stretch herself comedically.
I never spit. I don't spit. I live in Connecticut.
We were lucky to get her. She was a strong actress, and she played that uptight, prissy character wonderfully in the beginning. And then we broadened her out to fall in love with convicts and runaway things and all kinds of crazy things we did.
This is Corinne Tate. She knows what boys like, which doesn't make her smart, but does make her very popular.
Diana Canova was a tricky one for us in the sense of her character, Corinne, because she was a party girl, a little bit of a tramp, and yet we didn't want to have that obvious in the character as she entered the room.
I
Diana was kind of a wholesome-looking girl who could play that angle, play that side, and get the laughs. You know, it's tough to find pretty girls who can deliver a joke.
This is Jessica's father, the Major. He still thinks he's in the war, which in this household isn't too far from the truth.
Arthur created his own reality. You know, that was certainly a less dimensional character than some of our other characters.
Well, he was easy because you go to him for laughs. So basically, he was a laugh machine.
Sigmund, heel.
We all had people in our family who might have lived in other worlds and been a little other-oriented or bless their hearts, demented, and we kind of went in that area with it.
This is Billy Tate. He's the only sane one in the bunch, for now.
Jimmy, his character was the only, Billy Tate was the only one that was the normal one in the family, this poor kid trying to get through life in this household.
Everyone in this house is one way or another totally deficient as a human being, and I get the zit.
He was a sweet, adorable kid with a little attitude, had to live with all these crazy people.
This is Benson. He's the butler for the Tates. The only thing Benson hates more than his job are the people he works for.
We had not found Benson anywhere. This tape came in, and we all saw it and just were blown away by it. But videotape is a tough way to audition, and you don't really get it. You don't really see it. You just got to hope for a couple of glimmers when you bring someone in off the videotape. And we saw it, and that was the only time that the network and we were in some disagreement about a part, because they were looking at the tape going, we don't see that. We got to keep looking. And finally, we flew him out here, and he nailed it.
I don't like it, so I ain't making it. I'm making fish.
Mr. Tate hates fish.
I know.
Tough part because at a time when people neither wanted to see African Americans playing servants, and given the history of show business in general, it's totally understandable. People didn't want to play it, and it's another part that took a lot of courage and a great deal of dignity. It also, it was a literary convention and a theatrical convention to have the servant be the smartest person around.
This doesn't look natural.
What do you mean?
Well, the story is he rang the doorbell and then collapsed. This looks like he settled down for a nap.
Spinning him off was painful on the one hand, creatively, because we wanted him around as much as we could have him. On the other hand, he deserved it, because that was not an easy part, especially at that time. And he took a lot of flack for playing it.
Would Susan, Paul, and Tony ever find a director as controlling as the characters they had created? Have you ever been to Hollywood?
With Jay Sandridge and that cast, and we were lucky that all those people were available, we knew we had something.
Eunice, he's a criminal. Oh, you're going to lecture me, Mrs. Fallen Priest?
There are not a lot of directors who can get out there and make people funny or help actors be funny and real. Jay was the man at the time.
Jennifer, don't laugh. You got some lines coming.
Getting Jay was a coup for us, because we knew he could deliver the reality in the performances that we were looking for. This could have been very silly. We wanted it taken seriously. We wanted all of the comedy to play against a reality of the moment and of the overall situation, and Jay was able to deliver that.
Who are you out with?
You don't know him.
Neither do you.
And the first read of that script was, as one would expect, hysterical, monumentally hysterical, where you had to stop and have people read their lines over because everyone was laughing so hard to get, so we had to slow it down and wait for laughs, wait for long laughs at just the reading at the table among the actors and the network watching us.
But the network wasn't the only one watching.
Well, the Newsweek article caught us all off guard, at least caught me off guard, and they seem to be, actually, it's almost was the tip of the iceberg of where we are today. Reading that article, I just wondered how they could make all these assumptions and how someone who had not seen the show could discuss plot lines and condemn and criticize and wonder what kind of show this might be without having seen the show, which is pretty much how a lot of reporting is done today. And so it caught us all off guard, and it started a fire that, practically did us in. If Fred Silverman wasn't so strong about his belief in this show, you might have network heads pulling shows like this.
You see, we don't get pimples. God said, I won't give them pimples. I'll just screw up their hair.
The Catholic Church came out and condemned us, which meant, I guess, you were going to hell if you watched the show. And gay rights folks came out and were concerned about how we were going to portray this and thought we were making fun of gays. And everybody just assumed the worst. And it wasn't until the show aired that we got some people to calm down. The very conservative folk never calmed down. And that always amazed me because in the end, if you look, especially the first 2 episodes, which is what everybody was reacting to, later we went crazy, and gladly so. But the first 2 episodes, there was not a plot line or a character that you could not see on daytime television.
And I believe that people, once they saw it, when they saw the first episode, were probably disappointed and said, is this what all that commotion was about? Because it really, it wasn't the way it was painted.
Would Susan, Paul, and Tony's bubble burst? Not if the network had anything to say about it.
You do know when what you have is good and when you're just trying to get by with something mediocre, and I knew what I had was good.
Eunice, your grandfather suffered a severe shock in the war, but he's not crazy.
Here we go, Dad.
At ease, men.
The real surprise was going to the network because it was so out there in so many ways. They loved it so much that they really fought for it. I mean, they really took on those battles because they liked it so much, and they were our greatest ally.
It was never a hard sell to Fred Silverman. Fred got this right away. He wanted to do it. He wanted to recreate the genre, and he was behind us 100%. We knew that we were going to be pushing the envelope every step of the way, and so did Fred, and he was our ally in the process. There were, of course, broadcast standards who dreaded us appearing on the scene with these scripts because it was pretty touchy stuff. I mean, we were trying to say the word boff as the euphemism for the sleeping together, and that was, already a mortal sin somewhere in the world.
Good old Chester's probably boffed a secretary or two in his day.
Boffed?
Yeah, Chester's a guy.
What is boffed?
This was a show that caused a lot of grief to a lot of people at the network. They came under a lot of fire on a lot of levels, and they stuck with us. Fred Silverman got this done and had the strength to stand up to the most severe critics.
Will television ever be the same again? Is this town ready for more of this threesome? It all comes out in the wash on season 3 of Soap.